I think we're ready.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. It's Tuesday, February 27th. It's 6:36, and this is Development and Government Relations. Joined this evening by Counselors Devine, Sullivan, OCASIO, myself, of course, and in the chambers we have Counselor Bartley. We also have Counselor Murphy Romboletti in the chambers. Yeah, I guess we're ready for item 1.
Make a motion that we take item 1 off the table and accept the minutes unless somebody's got a question.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, do we have to read do we have anyone on Zoom? No, because Juan's not available, right? Okay, never mind, sorry. All right, so that's unanimous. Thank you. Next.
Make a motion to take item 2 off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Microphone.
Aye. Microphone when you're talking. Okay, yeah. Yep. All in favor of item 2, opening the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. It's my understanding, let me turn this off. What's echoing? Is it us? My understanding is that the special permit application for Salmar is not ready, or they're not here. Am I wrong on that?
No. Good evening. My name is Philippe Cravo from R. Levesque Associates.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome.
I'm attending via Zoom, but I am here to make a brief presentation for the proposed site improvements whenever you guys are ready.
All right. Sounds good. Jeffrey, do you need to have access to the screen to share anything?
You should be already be set.
Okay, great. You're on,
Yep.
Philippe.
Great. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so you should be looking at a plan at the moment. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, great. So good evening. For the record, my name is Philippe Cravo of R. Levesque Associates, project engineer for the proposed site improvements at 209 South Street Plaza. We have submitted an application for a special permit for a drive-through restaurant on behalf of Salmar Realty, care of Mr. Peter Martins. And I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the project here. So let me just pull up the location. So this is just a aerial view of the site through the City of Holyoke GIS system. The property to be improved on is the South Street Plaza, which is, if you're familiar with it, right off the end of the 391 interstate. Off to the left, there is an existing sort of strip mall on the property with a large parking area adjacent to South Street, and the property corners on South Street and Parenteau Street. So if you can just get that as a locus of the project, the proposed building will be constructed within the existing parking lot, so entirely within the existing parking lot on the northerly side. So right where I'm moving my cursor right here. So I just, from an aerial view, now go back to the plans and kind of continue the presentation from there. So This is the existing conditions of the property, just an existing condition survey of where the proposed building is going to be located. So here's Parenteau Street to the north, to the top of the page, South Street to the east on the right-hand side of the page, and the existing building off to the left. And this is that parking area right where the project will be located. So moving on to the proposed site improvements. So what is being proposed is entirely within the existing parking lot area. There is the building is about 1,912 square feet, including a freezer here, which all Dunkin' Donuts have. We will be placing the building such that we will maintain a one-way drive aisle down the existing drive aisle here, and the site circulation will go down around the existing parking aisle and up to the pickup window this is the ordering kiosk pickup window, and then back out to the main aisle here of the plaza. We are reconfiguring some of the striping in the parking lot and also adding some landscaped areas. The building will front or face towards South Street, so the front of the building will be the right-hand side here, so that will be, quote unquote, the front of the building. And the site has been set up so that any pedestrian access or ADA access can be gained to the building through new sidewalks that will be constructed up on the left-hand side of the building towards the front door, which will be in this corner here. So the ADA spaces will be here on the left-hand side with the required ramping to the sidewalk to the front door. There will be a screened refuse enclosure that will be located just to the left of the drive aisle here. The loading area will be placed here, and then the landscaped area in between the queue aisle and some of the parking spaces as shown here on the plan. This dashed line, I'll just go to the next page. The grading associated with the proposed project is such that, so the existing parking lot has a pretty good slope that goes from the existing building essentially straight down across towards the corner of the property, which is at the corner of Parenteau and South Street. We are proposing to construct the building here, which obviously buildings are flat, so we'd have to maintain a level graded area for the building with the ADA spaces here, which is why those are located on the left-hand side. A retaining wall along the building is shown by this sort of darker shaded line here with a fence, and then the sidewalks to get to the front door. We'll adjust the grading adjacent to the improvements as necessary to sort of make all of the improvements function. And then all of the utilities and stormwater control will be brought to the building by existing utilities on the property, and we are proposing to collect and capture and treat and attenuate stormwater through a new catch basin and roof drainage collection through a new stormwater system to a subsurface attenuation system and tie into the existing drainage outfall on the property. So that is essentially what is being proposed at this point. We are impacting the total number of parking spaces on the property. We are reducing the overall number of parking spaces, and we have an application in front of the planning board to be heard by the planning board. I'm not sure if there's a date set for that yet, but so we do have that application in, and we do have a traffic impact study done by McMahon Associates, and essentially the conclusion of the traffic impact study was that this the location and this proposed business use will not introduce a significant traffic to the impact to the adjacent roadways. It will essentially capture a lot of the traffic, as these are pretty busy roads, particularly South Street, which access to the site off South Street is gained through a curb cut right here, and then Parenteau has a curb cut right here. So with that being said, I can turn it back over to the committee and try to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you very much, Philippe, that was great. I just wanted to point out that I have some information from planning that they have yet to receive the revised drive-through material, so it looks like you've presented that now, so you'll want to make sure to submit that to them. And also, once this application is received by the city clerk and a copy is forwarded to planning and DPW or Department of Public Works to review and comment, then we can have another public hearing. So I'm thinking we may want to we may want to schedule another public hearing for after you've submitted everything, but I did want to open it up to any of the counselors that are currently here and see if they had any questions. So,
Yep.
Anybody? Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, Felipe, right now the stormwater retention system, is that's a brand new system? It's not an existing system?
So currently the site has an existing outfall. There's 2 catch basins in the corner here by the Plaza sign. What we're doing is we are, per the stormwater management permit, we have to reduce for the area that we're impacting, we have to reduce our discharge rates by 25%, without getting too technical. So that's why we have to collect a certain amount of runoff to improve over the existing conditions. And we're doing that with this catch basin and collecting the portion of these landscaped areas and the roof and putting it to a subsurface system, which is new, but tying into the existing system.
Okay, this is a little bit new, but does this also require the city to hold a lien on the property as well?
I'm not sure if a lien would be required, but potentially a bond until the stormwater improvements have been constructed. That wouldn't, I believe I've seen that mechanism used. I'm not sure if they would put a lien on it.
Okay, those were my only questions. Thank you.
Yep.
Counselor Bartley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Felipe, thanks for being here. I really appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
I'm David Bartley, and I represent that section of town where the proposed building is going.
Okay.
So I have a number of questions for you. We were set for July, August, September, November, December, January. What happened? What took us so long to get to this point?
I think that the applicant was reconsidering the application there at one point, but also the scope of the project. I understand that we have obviously continued here a number of times, but we have, since the pandemic, these new construction standalone buildings have really kind of been spread out. They were kind of on fire there for a little while, for lack of a better phrase. But they kind of slowed down there for a little bit, and I think that we're finally at the point where the applicant is ready to get going on it at this point.
The scope, has it changed since the letter I have, which I reviewed multiple times before other meetings? I fortunately didn't review it again today, but this is dated, I think, July of '23, at least the permit application that I have. So how has the scope been amended? Since,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The building, so essentially the building and the immediate improvements have stayed the same. Some of this landscaped island was significantly larger at one point, but still in this general location. It was just, kind of pulling, just kind of tightening up some of the exterior improvements, but the building and everything else has generally stayed the same. And a big thing was to minimize the impact to the existing site, to reduce, not minimize, but reduce the impact to the existing site. Maintain these parking aisles as much as possible.
well, I mean, truthfully, that existing site should be impacted. It's gone probably past its useful life. It hasn't been upgraded in probably 50 years. So I, for one, am grateful that you're coming. But at the same time, there's a little bit of trepidation too. So on the east side of the building, is that right? I mean, when you're constructing it, is that going to be raised up? Is there a wall back there? The east side, so that where your cursor, I'm sorry, on the west side, my bad.
The west side, yeah.
On the west side, what is that?
Yes, so there is a wall.
Can you blow that up a little bit?
Sure. Yep. So in order to provide, ADA parking spaces and a flat building, because right now, if you can picture it, the parking lot is sloping down away from the existing building towards South Street. So to get the ADA spaces and the building to be, generally in a flat orientation, but, with a curb, not totally flat, but with a curb and sidewalks and things like that, we end up about 3 to 4 feet out of the ground on this side. So that's where the wall, which would be, a landscape wall that would look, it would be, a brand new landscape. They certainly, that's going to be the front of the building. So that's something that they want to, it'll certainly be made to look appealing from the street view, because that will be the front of the building. But there is a retaining wall. It's not, an 8-foot retaining wall. It'll be about 3.5 to 4 feet here along the front.
That's a positive. And as far as appealing goes, it's unappealing now. So whatever you add is going to make it more appealing. I'm just, so don't feel bad about what you're doing. But at one point when I read this application way back in the summer, I am certain I read that whoever wrote the petition indicated there was a relatively flat surface. But I was glad to hear you mention that is a pitch surface. I mean, it's like a ski slope. I mean, I'm not saying it's the big time going down or whatever, going down a lift line, but it's that is really pitched. And with water runoff, I mean, I'm glad you got one extra catch basin. That's great. But water just really is going to be pushing hard down off that roof. And so what kind of studies have you done relative to stormwater runoff? And And I'm not even, I'll get to the traffic stuff in a second, the lighting, but stormwater runoff, and I am no expert, so I'm not even gonna pretend that I am, but I do know that lot very well and that area very well. So I'm hopeful that you've got a really solid game plan working with the Public Works Department. So maybe you could touch on that.
Yep, so we, under a previous design, we had presented this entire project to DPW through the Stormwater Permit Authority, and addressed all their comments, but it has, since the scope or the site has been sort of tightened up, they haven't had a chance to review and issue comments yet. But, so we did an analysis of the area that's being impacted, because if you can imagine, this plaza extends, pretty far to the south, in front of the existing strip mall there. So we analyzed everything that's tributary and upgradient of the area that we are impacting. So that includes the area to the north of the existing building, the area that we are impacting, and the area to the south of the proposed Dunkin' along South Street. Just from being on site, there's a curb that runs along the southerly edge of the parking lot, which has, like you said, it's old, it's broken up, it's, parts are, blocks of the curb are missing, so water is able to escape through that curb. We are proposing to replace that stretch of curb to sort of collect the runoff that's coming down these aisles in the area in front of the area we're impacting, to direct it over to the existing catch basins.
Thank you, Manager. I probably got about a bunch more questions, but if somebody else wants to jump in, I'll circle back, okay? So I just want to be aware of that. So I'll table me for now. If you just come back, that'd be great.
Okay. Councilor Jourdain?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Felipe, thank you. Kevin Jourdain, good to be with you this evening. Couple things I wanted to ask you about is, one is, and I agree with your analysis that there won't be added traffic to the neighborhood as a result of the project, but one thing I will say is there'll be added traffic in and off of this site as a result of this project. So I wanted to just kind of dive into that a little bit. How many trip visits do you anticipate would be coming on an average on a daily basis? And less concerned about Parento Drive because it has a traffic light and it's perfectly queued in a safe manner to be coming in and off the traffic there. Having said that, less so coming in the South Street exit if it's a dramatic amount of cars. So can you touch on how many trips do you feel are going to be coming to this location on a daily basis?
Sure. So when we look at these sites, it's really the peak hour impacts that we are kind of sort of focusing on. So those peak hours in the morning, when everyone's on their way to work and wants their coffee, and then that same peak hour in the afternoon, and then you sort of have that lull during the day. So the way that the traffic impact study was analyzed is in that way. So I think the answer to your question is in this paragraph where it says, based on trip generation data published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, the majority of vehicle trips to the project would be drawn from the existing vehicles traveling by the site. The project is anticipated to result in approximately 19 new vehicle trips, 11 entering and 8 exiting during the weekday morning peak hours, approximately 2 entering 1 vehicle and 1 exiting during the weekday afternoon, and approximately 18 new vehicles, 9 entering and 9 exiting during the Saturday midday peak hour. I can get more information as to whether, I know they analyzed each of the entrances separately, so I can do a little bit more digging and get that answer for you.
Can you just briefly translate that for me in terms of, it sounds like 20 per hour, is that it?
Yeah, so during the morning, the weekday morning peak hour, there will be 19 new vehicle trips. And then in the weekday, so that was approximately 19 new vehicle trips during the weekday morning peak hour and approximately 2 new vehicle trips during the weekday afternoon peak hour.
Okay.
So 19 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and that's during the morning peak hours, which are generally, I believe, 6 to 9, somewhere in that range. It's that morning rush hour that they analyze.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is, it's not, again, Parento, I'm not concerned about. I'm more concerned about people coming in and out on South Street, and I'm less concerned about people coming up South Street and turning right into the plaza. That's not really much of a problem. It's where we've had difficulties in terms of car accidents historically is people coming down South Street and turning left into the plaza because there's no traffic signal there. And if we're going to just push more left turns coming into the plaza, that's a recipe for problems. So the question is should we consider, in light of this new added traffic, should we prevent in the future left turns coming into the plaza from South Street and maybe make the left turns come down to the light and come in the plaza either through Parento or come in through the back entrances on Elm Street? I think as people who are, going to be making these changes, you really want to consider doing this thing the right way and the safest way. So I think we need to consider the left turns coming into the plaza across a very busy intersection where to my knowledge, there's no queuing at all. I'm not sure there's no queuing lane turning left into the plaza, or very limited. So, you might want to consider, do we need to expand that some more? Because you've got parked cars going down the street on South Street too, which, add to is another complicating factor. Okay, moving on. I wanted to ask you about Parento. One of the things that has given neighbors certainly pause back in the neighborhoods on Congress and Gates and Davis and those areas, Parkview, they have expressed concerns about the deteriorating condition of Parento Drive. As part of these improvements, that road, is it going to be resurfaced? Is the curbing going to be fixed? Is there going to be basic improvements made to that section of road? And Siegel Properties did a renovation, I want to say 15, 20 years ago now on that, and did a resurfacing, but it's been a long time since those, and it's kind of reverted back to really difficult looking conditions. So do you know, Felipe, if there's going to be investment in terms of fixing that Parento section, please?
At this time, there's nothing proposed in Parento short of any utility connections that would need to be made. So, extensive repaving or anything else to improve Parento is not
or sidewalks,
part of this. Yeah, is not part of this application.
Yeah. Is Siegel still the owner?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
What's the lease terms of your client? How long of a lease do they have with the owner of the property?
I'm not sure, but obviously they're building a building, totally typical to a Dunkin' building. So it wouldn't be anything short, like a 5-year lease. It would be significantly. I would expect it to be long term, but I don't know specifically what the lease terms are.
All right, can you get back
But
to
I
it?
can find out. For
Yeah, if
sure.
you could get back to the committee on who the current owner still is and how long the lease of the applicant is with the property holder, that would be appreciated.
Yep.
And I'm assuming by virtue of the fact this is going to be another Dunkin' Donuts, that some sort of analysis has been done that another one is apparently needed in Holyoke, so, needed, yes. So, I mean, there's certainly a lot of traffic there, so I can see why you're interested, but, okay. Thank you very much, but I would ask that improvements on Parento, because you're going to be pushing this traffic, everybody coming in and out of there, at a minimum, basic resurfacing, fixing the curbing, it just looks atrocious. And there's big ruts and potholes in the dirt sections along the side.
Yep.
I mean, the owner, somebody's paying the owner a ton of money to put this up. If it's done, whoever's I believe these are franchises, so somebody's paying somebody a lot of money for all of this. So I would ask that some of that money be reinvested on Parento so that the neighborhood and the people that are using the property are doing so with a basic level of standard of appearance. That's I think you owe that to the neighborhood and to the people who shop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jourdain. Yeah, I had a similar question just regarding sidewalks on Parento. I was curious as to whether or not you guys would be interested in installing those for the neighbors that might be walking down, but I'm sure that's not a part of it. But thank you for that part of your presentation. Councilor Bartley, did you have
Oh, I
other? Okay.
Oh, I do. Yeah. Okay, so Felipe, one thing I always say, and I neglected to say it initially, is that we always appreciate anyone's private investment coming into the city. So, and this is no exception. So thank you to you and to Mr. Martins and all that. Relative to Mr. Jourdain's questions, I actually have the corporate information in front of me, and this is really, really interesting the way Steve Krevlin set this up. But the manager of this LLC are two other LLCs based in New Jersey. One's called KS South Street LLC, the other one's DC South Street LLC. Now, I'm going to assume that DC and KS are initials for a real person, but this is like another layer of corporate stuff that protects names. I frankly, I didn't even know you could do that, but I guess I learned something, so that's always helpful. But why don't we find out who KS and DC are, and you can pass that along to Mr. Jourdain.
It doesn't KS stand for Ken Siegel?
Well, Kev, it says KS.
Oh.
I'm not Kreskin here, but I'm assuming it does, but I want to confirm it.
Well, to my knowledge, the the proprietor there was Ken, and he's probably still, is Ken Siegel. That's just too much of a coincidence that Ken Siegel and KS, and they're both from New Jersey, Englewood, I believe.
Yeah, Kev, I'm getting it. But
A wonderful guy, by the way.
I'm just telling you,
Okay.
this is what it says on the corporate records.
Okay, great.
Okay. And I just asked him to confirm it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yep.
So
The
hopefully
only
that
thing the only thing I would add to that is that the franchisee for the Dunkin' Donuts, Mr. Peter Martins, is local to the area. He's not in New Jersey.
Yeah, he's in Belchertown, yes. He's been before us many times.
Yep.
Okay. Relative to, let me just do a couple basics. What are the proposed hours of the drive-through?
I believe it was until midnight. I just don't know, probably 4 or 5 a.m. Let me just double check that.
To midnight every night of the week? That would be
Probably not
unusual.
every night. Yeah, not every night of the week.
Right.
I can dig. I'll do some digging.
That's okay.
into the
That's
hours.
a question we'll have at the next hearing. In terms of lighting, Felipe, what are we proposing for improved lighting, if anything?
So the existing parking lot has has the light poles in it. So there's an existing light pole here. The only light pole that we are impacting is one that's right up in this sort of row of parking right here. So that one will be removed, but it will be replaced with lighting from the building. So no new light poles, but we will be replacing the existing light pole that's right here in the parking lot with just wall pack lighting from the proposed building.
All right, that actually sounds good. And I'm thank you for bringing the information regarding improving the curbing on the west side of the lot, which is deteriorated. There's also, as Kevin pointed out, decrepit curbing on Parento Drive. But what we didn't point out is Parento Drive is not an accepted city street. That is a private way. I'm assuming is probably in the domain of the LLC from whom you're leasing or rent. I can't remember what you're doing, but that's why I think and to me, the surface area of Parento Drive, is how it's pronounced, is okay, but there's a fair amount of room between the roadway and the fence line that segregates the Fitzpatrick skating rink. So the thinking on my end, and I hope others' ends, is that perhaps there would be a dedicated left-hand turn lane on Parento Drive and a passing lane on Parento Drive going up the hill, and then better line markings on there. Now, I say that because there's no reason why you would come here unless you're expecting increased traffic coming off of 391 and through the neighborhood. And just so, and I'm sure you're aware of this because you probably walked the site, the west side is South Elm Street, and that is a thickly settled residential neighborhood. And it does have a sidewalk on the west side. Part of it, there is a sidewalk on part of the east side of that too, but only fractionally. So the good news is that there's speed humps there, so there is some traffic mitigation that's already been put in place and some speeding mitigation. But let's be kind of real about this. So what Kevin mentioned, the dedicated lane off of South Street, there is a dedicated queuing lane on South Street, which I'm going to guess you're going to get a lot of your customers from there. And so they're going to dive into the South Street Shopping Plaza. And I didn't hear you say one word about appropriate markings to sort of guide motorists from South Street and to navigate over to the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through. So I'm hopeful that when you come back, that'll be front and center, because that has a lot of foot traffic as well. I'm very grateful to the mayor, this mayor in particular, for working with me to finally get appropriate be built sidewalks up from the High Street area. I'm grateful that we have them now. And what happens there's a lot of people without transportation from that area that walk up that hill on a regular basis to do their shopping, and they're walking through the parking lot. I mean, so I'm hoping you're putting one and one together here. So there's not just motorist traffic, there's pedestrian foot traffic that walks through that lot, that walks up to the Save-A lot. So that has really got to be thought out quite a bit. Relative to the prior speaker's comments about the traffic signaling at the bottom of Parento, that is a disaster waiting to happen. In fact, there have been disasters on there already. The queuing light on coming up South Street from Maple and cutting across South Street is right there where your cursor is. I really wish you as a professional would go and look at that and notice how there's no dedicated left-hand turn from Maple cutting across that goofy intersection going back down the hill by the new, brand new Puerto Rican restaurant. I just can't think of the name, El Barrincan maybe, but I can't think of the name of it right now. But so what happens is motorists just, when they see that, they just do it. And the traffic coming down South Street doesn't yield, doesn't stop, and there have been multiple accidents on that, in that intersection. And so now What you're proposing is more cars coming through that little gap where the paving is and taking the left. So that traffic, that intersection, has really got to be looked at closely. I will apprise you that Mass DOT they're 5 years behind schedule, but they are proposing to do some major roadway improvements, and they're going to make hopefully an announcement tomorrow at 5:30 at the library relative to what they're doing. But I would ask you to either attend that or have somebody attend it and to sort of see what it is that they're planning. I'm not even sure if they're coming all the way up to the traffic signaling area where Parental Drive meets, that intersection. It is, it's unsafe. So I'm going to mention that to you. Signage. What are we doing? So I assume you're going to have signage on South Street, little signs going over there for like this way to Dunkin' Donuts, that sort of thing, and Parental Drive, that sort of thing. Is that what are the plans?
Right now, the plan is just to utilize the existing Plaza sign. The building will be just in the back, within the parking lot. So there's no additional signage being proposed, other than just utilizing the existing
Okay, well,
Plaza sign.
I'm hopeful. So I like the map, the real photograph you have, the aerial shot. So you can see when you're coming on South Street, and that has just got to be laid out a lot better. How they cut? Yeah, there you go, where the cursor is, and you sort of take that little right. There you go, and now you take that right, and you head down the hill.
Yeah.
So I think the last thing you'd want to have is motorists coming back up there and working their way over to the Dunkin' Donuts, because that is just a thickly settled area in terms of parkers and pedestrians. And like I said, there's just a lot of people that walk to that facility. So as much as you could, and as KS and DC can come up with lighting and walkway improvements, it's going to pay significant dividends for all of us in terms of public safety, I hope. One of the things that we had a tremendous amount of pushback on when Dunkin' Donuts was planning to go up to the log cabin, and I know that's still pending in Superior Court, so I don't know where that stands, but a lot of the public feedback, and I don't even know if there's anyone from the public here today because this got continued so many times. So I'm doubtful. I don't see one person in Ward 3 here, to be truthful, other than me. So, of course, Kevin's mom lives there, so Kevin's representing a fine Ward Davis Street resident. But the issue of trash was a regular comment about Dunkin' Donuts up there on the pretty little hill. Of course, if you drive up there now, there's trash all over that roadway. And nobody picks it up. All the pretty little people from East Hampton, they don't bother picking it up. They probably throw out their cars. It's all up and down 141 now. But they were alleging that Dunkin' Donuts makes it worse. Can you just talk about what our trash mitigation efforts will be?
So there will be, so from a trash collection standpoint, let me just bring back the sub plan here. There are the trash receptacles. We're proposing 2 of them in the drive-through lane. And then the refuse enclosure that we're showing here on a concrete pad to sort of screen and contain the dumpsters for the use of the Dunkin' Donuts. And, these would be dedicated only to the use of the Dunkin' Donuts. So if there ever were a sort of trash problem, you could, that was clearly a Dunkin' thing, then you could certainly go back to the Mr. Martin's and sort of talk to him about.
Well, I appreciate it. You're representing Mr. Martin, so I'm just saying, and he's said it to us before. He's a gentleman, and we totally respect Mr. Martin. So, and we appreciate him always. But that's going to be an issue. So I wish you would just kind of consider expanding upon that. Expanding upon the queuing lane in Parental, I think Kevin mentioned that. The queuing lane on South Street, that's, again, those are city things. And we need to do better with marking our roads. But the Parental Drive, like I said, is a private way. So that is KS and DC, South Street LLC's problem. And And so we're gonna make it your problem to make sure that happens, because that's just that's a public safety issue, that's a traffic issue, traffic flow issue. I'm certain that if you're locating here, we're expecting a lot more traffic on Parental Drive than what we currently have. So that's got to be addressed in a little clearer fashion for my purposes. In terms of a timeline, where are we in terms of the timeline? So if all your dreams came true and we pass this stuff here and you get through planning board, when do we want to start construction?
I'll get that answer for you. I would expect that since we're now at this, this point in the process, once we get through permitting, it would be shortly thereafter. Hopefully, if it still falls in the construction season this year, they would try to start this year. That could be, if we get approved over the next few months, potentially a start in the fall, late summer, fall at this point, or potentially next spring.
Oh, okay, all right. So it's not okay. So sometimes we have contractors come in here and we want to start like 2 weeks ago. So at this point, okay. So you've been slow walking this. Not you, but you know what I mean. It's been slow walk for a while, and so you're still slow walking. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of breathing room in terms of getting this done. I really appreciate the chair giving me a chance to ask my questions, but these have been pending since August. Now, I understand what the chair recommended is that this gets tabled. I'm hopeful and continued to a date certain. I'm hopeful that that's what the committee will do, that you'll do that, because right now we have some open questions. Ultimately, though, what's going to happen, and just Felipe, just so you're aware, Mike showed me a document relative to stormwater management, whereas it's not exactly a lien, but it would be a public notice filed at the Registry of Deeds, assuming that's legal, and we'd have to have the law department look at it, and your lawyers look at it, and relative to stormwater. So I'm sure Mike will get that to you instead of us belaboring it here. But that would probably be if it's all legal on our end, that would probably be a reasonable condition that we would have on your special permit. And also with the hours, that's usually what we maintain the property, the trash stuff. That's the basic stuff we put on special permits for a commercial entity of this, like this. So
Understood. Yep, understood.
I hope that wasn't too terribly painful. I'm sure it was, but that's the way it is. I've had a lot of questions on this, and they've been pending for a while. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. Councilor Ocasio?
I had a question. Have you checked with the PVTA, because there's also a bus stop there going up South Street? So, yeah.
No, I know that my office has not at this point, so I can double check, but I don't think so. PVTA to sort of just kind of
Madam Chair?
bus schedules and things like that.
Madam Chair? May I? Are you done? No, well, I just want to ask Carmen a question. Just to the Chair. Carmen, what are you asking about PVTA? I'm not sure.
The reason why I'm saying that is because when you go, the bus, there's a bus stop there, and there's, also more traffic, full traffic with people stopping there to catch the bus, and they also be having bags and stuff, because I've seen them. So you're exactly right. So on South Street, that's a P20, and that is every 20-minute bus, and that runs. It's a great bus. It's a great service for the city, and when it does set up right there, so you've got cars going around the bus, and now what you're implying is that you got cars coming back down the hill that want to turn left into the South Street Shopping Plaza. Yep. Whereas now we just have the regular Save-A-Lot customers and whatever people walking down to the whatever other shops there. Well, this is going to increase the traffic quite a bit. So now you've got cars going around the bus. You've got cars coming down the hill looking to turn in. So Felipe, I think what Councilor Ocasio is mentioning is that that's going to be a potential cluster bomb, and that you need to put a little thought in terms of your traffic mitigation as well.
on that. So I don't know if there's much you can do other than really clear lane markings, but we've talked about that, and I think that's got to be prioritized, and you need to work with the Public Works Department to make sure that happens.
Okay.
Are you all set?
Yep, almost it.
Okay, thanks, Councilor Ocasio. And Councilor Jourdain had another question?
Yeah, just real quick. Felipe, tagging on to what Carmen's point was too, is you've got so much going on at that South Street entrance there, because in addition to that, you have pedestrians going across the street to catch the bus going down the hill. And you've got, so they got their bags, you've got all this pedestrian traffic, the same spot of a left turn, the same spot where buses are stopping on both sides. You also have parking all the way down on South Street on this side. There's just a lot going on there. I just, as we're putting more and more going in, I think you really need to reflect on, do we really want to have left turns coming into that plaza right there? It just seems to me that all of this should get revisited with another quote unquote 20 cars per hour coming in there. The other thing, just a very minor thing, but I did see about the dumpster, you know, in a nut, I don't want to put it quite this way, but we are a little too easygoing in Holyoke when it comes to aesthetics on certain things. You have the entrance to a plaza coming in, and you're greeted by the dumpster, okay? I would suggest to you that that dumpster should go down the hill in the back, down where nobody sees it, in that sort of where the V sort of meets at the end of the plaza. That would be a plenty easy spot for a dumpster truck to come in, pick up the dumpster and you know, flip it on its head and do the whole thing that they do with it, as opposed to having a dumpster at the entrance to the whole plaza. I mean, I
can take a look at that.
We
Yeah.
should just kind of class it up a little bit if you can. Thank you. I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Jourdain. I'd also like to just stress that 2 trash receptacles for this is not enough, and that it would be much appreciated to create trash receptacles on the parking side of Dunkin' Donuts as well, just because you're going to have a lot of walking traffic here. They're probably going to be walking across the parking lot since there's no sidewalks. And we have a lot of trash all over Holyoke from Dunkin' Donuts, and every Dunkin' Donuts I go to only has trash receptacles at the drive-thru, because apparently if you get out of your car to get something, you're not allowed to throw anything out. So I just, if you can put some more, that'd be great. And I think it'll mitigate some of the trash from walking traffic. Thanks. I don't see any public hands up or any public at all. Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Philippe? No?
I would make a motion then that we continue the public hearing to April 22nd.
All right. Do I get a second on that?
Second?
All right, so we're going to continue this public hearing. Sorry?
Well, can I just interrupt?
Sure.
Just through chair to Felipe, when is, so April, you heard Councilor Sullivan recommended go to April 22nd. Does that work?
I was just about to ask him that.
Yeah. I was hoping that it would be, at least that far out. So I think that'll give us enough time to work with the planning department and hopefully have everything addressed by then. Because I hear it loud and clear. This has been continued a number of times, and we want to get away from that ongoing continuance process.
All right, so April 22nd sounds okay to everyone? Counselor Bartley, you think that's going to work? Thank you, sir.
I just.
Thank you.
No, but may I?
No, we did think about it.
No, you are. You're doing great. But I think it's awesome.
Okay,
I
good.
really do.
Thanks.
But like I said, this has been an ongoing drama.
Right.
So, but we heard why. So it's all good.
It
So,
sounds like they're in the home stretch, so that's exciting.
Yeah. So, but thank you to the committee.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks, everyone. Mr. Cravo, how do you say your name? Cravo?
Yes, Cravo's good.
Cravo.
Cravo
Thank you,
works,
Mr.
yeah.
Cravo. I appreciate you coming in this evening, and we're going to continue this to April 22nd. Can I get all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. What's up next?
Motion to take up item 3 off the table?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so item 3, motion by Councilors Jourdain and OCASIO that Office of Planning and Economic Development come to the D&GR committee to discuss how to help people start new businesses in the city. You're both here.
We're both here.
Councilor OCASIO, you're on the committee. Would you like to make any comments to start?
Oh, they're on, okay, good.
The reason for this order is because, like right now, there's a big issue about a business. It's on Sargent and High Street that they put a barber shop and then it's a house. So now it's a big commotion. So now they're trying to see to rezone it. And my concern is there are a lot of new businesses that require like the area to get rezoned. It affects a lot of people. So and some of the new business owners that come into the city don't know all that information, because the one that I'm dealing with now didn't know all this stuff that's happening. They have to change all this stuff. So.
All right, thanks. Councilor Jourdain?
Yeah, just to add what Carmen has said, I wanted to, and I thank Aaron for coming. I wanted just to review. We get a lot of people who are very entrepreneurial. I'm so impressed. They're much more risk takers than certainly I am. And, I want to start this kind of business, or I'd like to do this type of thing. And just what kind of resources do we currently have available in terms of, I would like to open up a business in a storefront here that we educate people on, what, as Carmen mentioned, zoning, or, just the start to stern of starting some of these, or pointing them to state resources, and then making a lot of these type of things available on our website. You want to start a business and sort of have like a manual, if you will, or some sort of resource. Could we do some things like that? And just kind of how does it flow now? I'd just like to learn, just to take five minutes or so, Aaron, possibly, of somebody walks in the door and says, I would like to open up a small retail, or I would like to do X on High Street. How does that kind of work in your office today, that, you have people with dreams and a little bit of money in their pocket, and they want us to go? Obviously, the bigger the business, the more sophisticated, the more resources they tend to have, and they get professional people involved. But I'm more trying to zero in on the little mom and pop startup type business.
And just before you start, Aaron, answering that, I wanted to recognize that Councilor Megan McGrath-Smith is online. And we do have an E4all representative in the building as well. And the director of the chamber is here. And there's another capacity here. Ms. Priscilla Rivera is the owner of a business in Holyoke. So there's a lot of resources in the room. So take it away, Aaron.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody, and thank you. Happy to have this conversation. I was trying to interpret the order and try to understand it, and obviously kind of two different angles coming at right now. So happy to sort of address what I can, and then obviously do any kind of follow-ups. So first and foremost, I think that OPED often acts as a convener and a referrer. So to Councilor Jourdain's question, someone comes into our office all the time. Lots of hopes and dreams come through our office. And depending on where they are at, we refer them. So, we're not working with people on their business plan. We're not doing any of that kind of work, right? I mean, we refer people to either the Small Business Association, SBA. Obviously, E4all is one of our go-tos. If there's someone who wants to start a business, has that idea, like you said, hopes and dreams, has the next best thing to make life easier, but they don't have a business plan, or they're not going to get bank funding, they got to go to E4all. If they're a little bit farther along, if they have a business plan, if they've done some of their work, or they're a graduate from e-for-all, obviously then comes the chamber and sometimes the SBA for some guidance and often loans or grants. So, and also, as you pointed out, I mean, it's much different, the mom and pop storefront store versus a Dunkin' Donuts like you just heard, or a small manufacturer, or what it might be. So we will often act as a in-between when it comes to finding space. So we're not brokers, but obviously, between John Dijek and his institutional knowledge, and also people like Jennifer Key and Marie Brazo, who are newer and sort of are up to date on what's going on in the city, if they're looking for space, we'll often start a conversation with them, see if we can make some connections, but often we then have to refer them to get a realtor, because we are not, again, we're not brokers, we're not real estate agents, but we may often know of space that's available. And that'll also obviously depend on where they're looking. Obviously, if they're looking at High Street right now, there's a lot more activity and focus on High Street with Kevin Maforte, our TDI fellow through Mass Development. So there's a lot more support there. Obviously, things like the Artery, now Paper City Fabrics, the new facades that have come up at Mass Surgical, and the couple of the restaurants there. So those kind of grant programs, that's kind of coming through more through our partnership with Mass Development, specifically on High Street. And so, again, it kind of depends on what they're looking to do. And so we do have, the other thing that we've done, this came out, I just sent the link to Jeffrey, but I'm assuming you guys have seen it before, but maybe not. We did this last year, back in September, put up a big press release. So we did assessing the field of capital for businesses in the paper city. So how do we get capital into these businesses? Because like you mentioned, whether it's compliance with zoning or building code, I would say more if you're talking about a storefront that's going to need sprinkler systems and access and all that kind of stuff. Where do entrepreneurs, where do small businesses get funding? And so obviously the city doesn't have funding. I'd love to have funding to support small businesses. But so we put together this document that gives them a lot of leads and a lot of insight into how they can get funding for their businesses. We also have looked at how do we sort of work with these small entrepreneurs they're in the makers world, right? And so a maker is someone that makes something that goes to market. So I use the example, we would love to support Crave. We all support Crave by going there, but if they came to us and wanted a loan to do a new oven and they're just selling their product right there at the storefront, at the counter, that's not what we can do. So HEDIC created a maker's loan program that if you were a restaurateur or you were making some product that was going to go to industry or go to market at a store, we could support that. So the definition of a maker is very interesting. So if you wanted a loan or a grant to buy equipment to make a product that was going to go, we've been working a lot with some of the local people like Hoyo Kamis, Hoyo Craft Beer, the Dan Bussolette, who does the craft cheeses and stuff like that. If they were making product to go out to market, they would be acceptable for a loan. We just gave our first HEDIC maker's loan to Raw Beauty, which is a maker of soaps, environmentally friendly, scent-friendly soaps. They're setting up shop down on Main Street at the Baustein building. So we were able to give them our first HEDIC loan. It's a 0% interest-free loan, good up to 5 years and up to $25,000. So we're pretty excited about that. So we are trying to find different initiatives to sort of help small businesses because it is a challenge. And then, of course, depending on the size of the business, obviously, when we talk about the Sublimes and the big housing developments and stuff like that, then we're in front of you with one of the few tools that we have in the toolbox is any kind of incremental tax agreement, so for development. But, we are kind of limited in the toolbox. But again, we're trying to find ways, whether it's bringing resources like the report on different capital ways that they can get money, the HEDIC loan. And really, I think the main thing is to Councilor Jourdain's point is answering that phone and having those meetings, right? I mean, I get calls all the time. I have a meeting with someone on the 22nd about a brewery next week, next month. People call us. We're going to have a conversation with them, right? We're going to talk to them. We want to have that door open because you never know of the 20 phone calls that we get, which one's going to hit, right? So we continue to have a positive open door policy with any small business entrepreneur that comes to our office and talks to us. And I think that really gets a lot of positive feedback. So people that they can actually talk to the director, they can talk to the staff. We'll meet with them, and we'll try to help them where we can. And then, interestingly enough, I'll try to address Councilor OCASIO's point. Hopefully we're addressing that stuff before it gets to an issue where some businesses set up in a place that they're not supposed to be by zoning. But again, we can travel down Main Street, we travel throughout the city. I see businesses come up and they've never contacted us, which is fine. They don't need to, right? I mean, as an example, on Main Street in the Nueva Esperanza block, there was the longstanding furniture bedding store that suddenly was a convenience store. I'm assuming they worked with the Board of Health, hopefully the building department, right? So again, my office isn't the enforcer of any regulations, right? So it's the Board of Health and the building department. So if they pull those permits, that's where they're going to get, their education on what they can and can't do, and obviously the certificate of occupancy, so the fire inspections. So all that happens outside of my office, and often those businesses may come to us and may not come to us. So again, depending on what size the business is. The first thing we do, I have 2 email chains going on right now. One person has a masonry business that's looking for a lot to house their equipment on. Nothing that we're really that like, I really don't want to have an empty lot with a bunch of masonry equipment. So the first thing we did was work with the building department, particularly Davin, where is this allowed by zoning? So between Jeff Burkott and Davin, we try to check that zoning. So if they've come to us, we check on that zoning, we make sure that what they're proposing is allowed in the area. But again, not everybody comes to us. So we're always happy to be an in-between, as I meant, or convener. Lots of times, whether it's the big site plan reviews, where Jeff sets up a pre-app meeting with all the departments before the applicants actually submit their stuff. Much like tonight, I know we have a pre-app meeting with Duncan next month for South Street. We can set those meetings up to have people, whether it's building department, Board of Health, if they're doing something near the canal or near the river, obviously we bring Yoni from conservation. So again, getting those information to businesses, large, small, and everything in between is key up front. But again, we can only do that if they've contacted us first. Happy to dig into more questions. Again, I could keep yapping, but it's already 8:15, so I want to make sure that you guys get the information you want.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Councilor Murphy-Ramboletti, would you like to speak on behalf of EFRAL? And
Sure.
wearing your EFRAL hat?
I can, yes, totally, absolutely. I know it's been a little weird. I was like, let me sit on the other side of the bar because I felt like I was invited here as EFRAL Tessa tonight. And Jordan from the Holyoke Chamber is also here. Do you want to? May I? I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Come on in, Jordan.
Jordan and I work very closely together, and we work with Aaron's office closely as well. So I do appreciate the opportunity to be able to present what we do and what we try to help with. Jeffrey, I don't know. Oh, yes, join as panelist. There we go.
Jordan, you can hit the green button. There you go.
So I'm going to share my screen. Present. I'm also going to give you guys this. Sorry. One in English, one in Spanish. You can take as many as you want. So I have some other flyers that I'll give to you all. I always get very excited to talk about what I actually do for work. As much as I love city council, this pays my bills, so I love this stuff. This is a very short presentation, but we do a lot of work, and I want everyone to have the opportunity to know what we do. So our nonprofit name is EFRAL, A para Todos Pioneer Valley. We are actually a national nonprofit that started in Lowell, Massachusetts. And I run the Pioneer Valley site. We are based in Holyoke, right down the street, a block up on High Street. And you can find us all over Massachusetts, in places that are similar to Holyoke, in Lowell, Lawrence, Lynn, Fall River, New Bedford, just a lot of places that are often overlooked. And we know that there's a lot of resources in Boston, but not necessarily in our area or in smaller cities. So that's why EFRAL started. But I oversee the Pioneer Valley site, and even though we're based in Holyoke, we do serve the whole valley. Was it there? So we're a small team, small but mighty. Myself, as the executive director, my main job is to fundraise and recruit volunteers. Jane is my English language program manager. She is a resident of Springfield. If you ever need to talk to someone and you can't get in touch with me, Jane is a rock star. Catalina she runs our Spanish language program. She actually lives in Holyoke up on South Street. So if you ever have someone that wants to talk specifically about our Spanish language program, Catalina can help them with that. But we offer two main things, and we work, like I said, very closely with Planning and Economic Development and the Holyoke Chamber. So our Business Accelerator program is the bulk of what we offer. It is available in English and in Spanish, and this is not like a bilingual thing. We have a program entirely in English and then a program entirely in Spanish. Everything that we offer is completely free. That's why I fundraise, so that we don't have to charge anyone for anything. Even if they become extremely successful, multi-million company, we're not going to take any money from them. That's not our goal. And we work primarily with early stage or idea phase businesses. And when I say early stage, I mean usually no more than about 4 years. We do have people who come to us with just an idea. A lot of the people that come to us are folks that walk into Aaron's office or Jordan's office and they're like, I have this business, I have customers, I know I don't have the right insurance, I'm probably not charging people the right amount, and I need to make it a little bit more legitimate. I should start paying taxes. I should really, kind of have a whole system in place. What we do is we offer with the Business Accelerator, there's weekly sessions. Everyone meets with us twice a week. And the folks who we bring in to teach those classes are all volunteers, and they're all experts in their own industries. And I will show you just a brief overview of what the curriculum is. A unique aspect of our program is that we do match each entrepreneur with a team of 2 mentors. The mentors and the entrepreneurs meet once a week for 90 minutes for 12 weeks. And then they switch to a monthly meeting for the rest of the year. But they're meeting as a team. And we do that through speed dating. Everyone gets to meet each other for about 5 minutes. And you just kind of make sure that you like each other, because you're going to be meeting with each other for once a week for 12 weeks. And then those groups will meet, and it's kind of like an accountability team. A lot of our entrepreneurs, they have busy lives, they have families, they have jobs, and the mentors are really there to help them stay on track and give them a little tough love, which is what we all need sometimes. And then the co-working space is a huge part of what we do. Our offices are located just a block up the street, 193 High Street. This co-working space was created through a Mass Development Collaborative Workspace grant. And because we are a nonprofit, we don't charge folks to a specific rate to use our space. It's really on a sliding scale. If you can afford $5 a month, that's cool. If you are able to pay me more, that's also great. But I do apply for corporate sponsors and foundations and grants to cover those costs, because we have seen that a huge barrier is space and zoning. And if you are someone who doesn't necessarily need a full storefront, we don't want you to take that huge investment and that huge risk. If you want to start smaller in a business zone and you want to use our address, you can register with the city of Holyoke. You become a tax-paying business, but at the same time, you're not necessarily having to try to run it out of your house that maybe you don't own, and your landlord doesn't necessarily want to allow you to run a business. That's okay. We are located in a business district, and we charge people what they can afford. So that's a lot of our entrepreneurs will end up using our space to do that. But we also allow it to the community at large. You don't necessarily have to go through our program in order to utilize the space. And I am always willing to host a tour if anyone wants to come check it out. I like to compare this. There's a lot of different types of co-working spaces. You have a Cadillac. You have like the really nice stuff. Then you have a Buick. We are a Buick. It is a reliable, accessible, and affordable space that gives you what you need. I'm a Buick girl by nature, so I have to. And then the last thing is that we give out awards to our entrepreneurs. These are not giant $20,000. It's a couple $1,000s. But it goes a long way for our entrepreneurs and what they're trying to accomplish. So that's our Business Accelerator program. Like I said, it's completely free, and we do it twice a year, winter and summer. So we're halfway through our winter. We're getting ready for our summer program. And I do have like the dates and how to apply and all that stuff, but I'll go through the next slides pretty quick, and then I'll stop talking. Pitch contests are the other thing that we do. This is like Shark Tank, but without the teeth. It's not as scary. There's no investing. It's open to all ages. It's open to the public to apply. We usually do them in the spring and in the fall. The first hour is tabling. Every entrepreneur has a table where they can showcase what they do. They can sell things, all that good stuff. And networking, obviously. And then 2.5-minute pitches. We have a panel of judges. They get to ask a question, and then the judges will pick 3 prizes. First prize gets $1,000. Second prize gets $750. Third prize gets $500. And that just goes to whatever idea you are pitching for. And then the audience votes for their favorite, and that person can get $500 as well. So pitch contests are really fun. Like I said, we do them 4 times a year, 2 in English, 2 in Spanish. We usually spread them all over the valley, and it's a fun night. Very briefly, this is our curriculum. As I mentioned, we talk about figuring out who your customer is. If you're starting a business, a lot of people think, I need to jump right into my logo and this and the business name. You need to figure out who your customer is first, and how to find them, and how are you connecting with them and testing your assumptions. So that's what we spend the first 6 weeks doing, teaching them all of that stuff. They have to do surveys. It's pretty intensive. We have them set goals. And then the second part of the class is all about figuring out, are you profitable? You might have a great idea, but you might not be profitable. And how are we going to make you profitable? We have them think about pricing, branding. We get volunteers from People's Bank who come in and talk about branding and messaging. We get volunteers from like different accounting companies to talk about forecasting and costs. We get lawyers, accounting and insurance, Dowd Insurance, Gillis, Bresnahan, they've all volunteered for us. So then the last part is just social media and marketing, how to ask for money. We bring in representatives from banks who talk about what you need to think about before you apply for a loan, and then other ways to ask for money. And these are just all the things that we try to cover in a very short span of time. It's called an accelerator because we want to accelerate your plans. So it's a very intensive 3 months. And then last, these are just some of our Holyoke-based alumni that you may or may not be familiar with. I didn't put everyone, because I could talk about these nuggets forever, but Crave, who's right over here, came to us with just an idea. Bruce Richardson, he lives up over on Scott Hollow. He has a cleaning company that is growing. Crystal Headley, she came to me and said, I need space. And that's the other thing we try to help people with is like, she said she needed space, and I'm like, have you looked at the Baustein building? They might have a space available. Boom, she did. I said, have you thought about the HEDIC loan program? Do it up. So like, Crystal's here for a lot of different reasons in Holyoke. Jeff at Paper City Fabrics, which just had its soft opening. Janice, she's down at the Plan. And just a few more. I could brag about them forever. But Star Dancers Unity right here, he was in our very first cohort 6 years ago. Koki Coffee Shop around the corner. She was in our Spanish language program. And then last, Izzy and Ezra from Infused Element, they're on the move. They've gotten a lot in investments, and they're going to be located here in Holyoke. So last thing. These are our applications that are currently open right now. We have pitch contests an event in Spanish, an event in English, happening later in April. The Business Accelerator, the deadline to apply is May 9th, and the classes will start in July. I just want to thank you guys. I know you know what I do on the city council side, but I don't know if you know what I do for work. But I could not do what I do without Jordan at the chamber, and we work really closely with them to try and get people connected into this ecosystem. So I'll just, stop there. Thanks.
So hi, good evening. Jordan Harm, the Executive Director of the Greater Holyoke Chamber. To kind of add on to what both Aaron and Tessa have said, we have a great working relationship. I easily email Aaron like twice at least daily. We're all working to build an ecosystem and to help build the economic development. And as Aaron mentioned, there's a specific focus on High Street, which is great because, all three of us work on High Street. And I just think that us having this communication between our offices, because there's always been a lack, from my perspective, being at the chamber for 10 years, this is the strongest that the chamber and the city has ever had a relationship together. So I think that that's really important. Tessa and I have been grateful to receive an abundance of funding over the past several years from Mass Growth Capital Corporation, and we're able to provide free one-on-one business and technical assistance. So anyone who's coming, who has an idea, who's not quite ready to, or they missed the deadline, or they didn't get accepted into the IFRAL E Para Todos program, then they can come into our office. We have contracted out a business consultant who's been a chamber member for years. She also went through the IFRAL program, so it was a perfect fit. And she is amazing. She has a private office within the chamber where she can meet folks. She has open office hours every Monday, and she can help with any and every idea or obstacle that you may have, whether we had to help a gentleman who had 2 business certificates and, she was on the phone with the IRS for 4 hours to try to help them square away. So there's really no limitations. And what we found was that the needs in our community were so specific to that particular business that we decided to just have it so that businesses can come to us and be able to tell us what it is that they need. And it's been really successful. Also knowing that language can be a barrier in our community. We're a bilingual community. I feel that I have very strong conversational Spanish. So as folks come into my office, I am able to communicate with them through some capacity to be able to help them. And in the event that they do want to meet with Lisa, who is our consultant, we do offer interpretation and translation services for them at no cost. So we are working to continue to create this economic development ecosystem that is just really kind of gaining momentum, especially with the TDI money coming in through mass development, which is really going to help elevate a lot of the storefronts and the aesthetic and overall vibrancy of downtown. So I think that's all I can really add to that.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Tessa. That's a really great presentation, and thank you, Aaron. I think I saw Councilor Devine. You had a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being in here tonight. And I'd like to, had Councilor Jourdain and OCASIO not filed their order, we may not have had you in here. So I'd like to thank them as well. And I certainly have learned a lot tonight. And just a couple of things, which you've probably already done. I'm assuming you've already had something in Business West? Okay. And Holyoke Media, I think whatever you did tonight, if you can put that on, if Holyoke Media is listening and they can put that on from time to time,
Yeah.
I think that'll be important. And also the town reminder. I don't know if that's something. So you've done it all. So I really appreciate what you've done. And I think it's a great order, and we've learned so much today. And thank you all and everybody involved. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Jourdain?
Yeah, I'd like to second everything Councilor Devine just said, but on top of that, I'm really glad I filed this order with Councilor OCASIO, because this is just a wealth of information, and thank you for grabbing onto this and really being so prepared. I don't, whoever asked you all to come, it wasn't me.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff. This is why he's our eyes.
We love Jeff.
And I really appreciate taking the time to share this information and the good work that each of you does every day. And hand in hand with that, some other suggestions, like, do we have a video out there that's, say, a 15-minute or 20-minute video in English and Spanish that could go on like a YouTube? so you want to open a business in Holyoke or that type of thing, and give the rundown of, take a few minutes of everything that you're saying. I wanted to ask you, in your honest opinion, in terms of our online presence for this type of information that you have, do we have like one spot? Is it the city website? And then they, have maybe an opening video with each of you speaking, and you can go to E4All if all this stuff you just said. If you're this, you go here. And if you're this, but you didn't do this, you go to the chamber. And if you're this, I just want to see what I'm trying to create is sort of the one-stop shopping, and everything is so online now. It might be the person who's sitting in Canton, Ohio, who knows, that's just reading this stuff online. And, I'd like to live somewhere else. I heard about maybe New England, maybe I'd like to live in Massachusetts. It seems so cool. Maybe I went to school at UMass, or I had this experience and I just really liked it out there, and, click. And then it's you three so enthusiastic about starting a business in Holyoke, and that might be the thing that brings somebody here and they open up something. So I wanted you to consider that. You know way more than I do about it, but do we have that, and can we do better on that, and putting those resources in sort of that one-stop shopping website, be it ours or however. So just something to consider.
It seemed like, Aaron, were you going to talk? I don't want to interrupt.
And we also, I just want to let you know, Alicia, I see you. You're next. So, Aaron?
Just real quick, some good ideas. We're definitely always trying to put the information together. I actually was sending a few notes about our website, our homepage for OPED on the city website that we're going to be working on updating next month. Staff started looking at all that. We've done stuff, not to the degree you're saying, Councilor Jourdain, but we did. I know the first year I was in the office, we put together the outdoor dining guide. Marie Brazo in my office, along with Alexandria, our licensing clerk, put all those regulations and guidance from the fire department and everybody into one document. So we sent that out to everybody who was doing a restaurant, who might do outdoor dining.
I was going to ask you.
So we definitely try to get that information out, but trying to compile it is obviously a challenge. And then just my last comment, just to follow up on Carmen, on Councilor OCASIO's comment. If she's having an issue with the business in her district, right? As city councilors, you're not alone. So whether it's, reach out to me, I might know the answer, but I would connect someone with Davin, the building department. Obviously she can do that as well, but just, if you're dealing with constituents as far as businesses, definitely reach out, and we'll try to bring the resources to help them.
And I would like to add as well that, I've been with the Chamber for 10 years and I have really great relationships with many folks in the city. So even if somebody comes into my office and I'm not the right person to help them, I'm more than happy to direct them. I am happy to help them with funding, pointing them in the right direction. And I have always worked in customer service. So I always make sure that whomever leaves my office, leaves with information and not empty-handed.
Madam Chair, if I may. Just to add to some of your suggestions, because, these are some of the things that I definitely feel like we could be doing better at. I think some of it is capacity, and I recognize that. I also, we at E4All definitely, and I feel like I've seen it with the Chamber, but we're trying to utilize Holyoke media a lot more. And they're always willing to interview our entrepreneurs, to interview us and what we do. We recently started hosting what we call final presentations in Holyoke media, and it's at the end of the 12 weeks, our entrepreneurs will do a 10-minute presentation. And I've planned the whole schedule around city council meetings, so I'm planning to be there. But we do it right at Holyoke Media, and they record everything, and it's all available to everyone and to watch hybrid. But I will say that I do think we can keep growing on what we do, and just really trying to make it as easy as possible for people to. That's always been our goal. Is if someone comes to a neighborhood organization and says, "I want to start a business," I want my job is to make sure that neighborhood organization knows we exist, and so then they can refer people to us. So I definitely want us to keep, trying to get the word out about what we do. And we really can't do that without all of your help too, because I know that I'm sure a lot of you are approached by people who have a business idea. And so I'm always trying to present to anyone who will listen. So I have more flyers for you all that I'm going to leave with you. But thank you.
Can I ask one follow-up?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Is it possible that we could get the city to, $3,000, $5,000 to maybe just as, to do, say, this website? I know resources is so much, but, these type of things, it doesn't take a lot of money to really like pull all this together and do these type of upgrades to a website. Probably wouldn't be that expensive. And for the city, we'd get a good bang for the buck on that. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, lots of good ideas. And I think Explore Holyoke's doing a lot too, and they've been a good resource for kind of all things Holyoke. I know there was like a grant for that, and there was an intern working, and I've been seeing a lot of new information on that site. So it's, I think there's a lot going on, and we just have to do a better job of sharing it with each other and with our constituents, because we don't know what we don't know. So I think this is a great order. Yes. Councilor OCASIO.
I want to say thank you to everyone that came in today and shared this information with me, with everybody. Due to this young lady that I'm trying to help out with the situation she's in, I've been through part here in City Hall and the other side that I never knew any of those offices existed. So I went to the Board of Health. I mean, I've been all over the place. You saw me the other day, Erin. I was doing my rounds. Trust me, I went to 4 different places to try to, the only place I haven't been yet is in the planning area. So that's my last step. So meanwhile, I learned a lot. Helping her out, I learned a lot. So like that can help other people in case they get stuck too. So thank you for all the information, for you guys coming in and sharing this information. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor OCASIO. Thanks again for coming in. We appreciate you. Sorry, Alicia, did you still have your hand up? I thought you might have put it down, but did you have a question or a comment?
Well, I didn't have a question or a comment. I just
Welcome
wanted
anyway.
to make sure, thank you for having me tonight. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the City of Holyoke does offer small business financial assistance. We work closely with Erin's office and with Tessa and with Jordan at the Chamber, and we provide small business grants up to $10,000. With the ARPA funds, we've been doing some larger grants. And one of our very first micro-enterprise grantees was just recently on the Tamron Hall show, talking about being a woman-owned business, and was featured last week on the cover of the Boston Globe. That's Hot Oven Cookies and Sheila Coons. And her first infusion of cash was actually through the City of Holyoke's micro-enterprise program. Wow. So we've had a number of really great success stories. We have money available. We have a dedicated staff person. Ashley Sturgis is our special programs manager. If people are interested or they have questions, they can give us a call. Ashley meets with people on a regular basis. She's seeing 3 or 4 people a week with new businesses. We're trying to streamline the process. We understand that the federal grant funds can be burdensome and a difficult process, so we try to make that as easy as possible. Through the ARPA Small Business Support Program, we've given out over $800,000 in funds. We're now working with a group of applicants you may have heard about that were impacted by COVID, but also have code compliance issues. So we're working with those small businesses. So if folks need funding, please give us a call.
And can you just repeat? Sorry, thanks, Alicia. Can you just repeat what office you're in for those looking for you?
Sure, the Office for Community Development. Mm-hmm. And we're on the 4th floor of the City Hall Annex, and we have all this information available on our website as well under resources for businesses.
Thank you so much. Did you get that? All right.
It's great.
Are we all set? Any other questions or comments? Thanks for coming in. We really appreciate your time.
Learned a lot tonight.
Yeah.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Motion that the order has been complied with?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks so much. I see we have item 4, but I was wondering how you feel if we went out of order and took up item 5, since the DPW director and a
Make a
a
motion.
board member is
Out
here.
of order and take up item 5.
I was
Hold on.
planning on leaving after 4, if that's okay. I don't think I'll need too much time on 4, unless there's someone here to speak to 4.
I don't think so. So you want to just do that one?
Yeah,
first?
if we could just do
Okay.
that and bang
All
it
right.
out,
Sorry
it
about
shouldn't
that.
be too long.
Okay. Motion to
Take up item 4 for discussion.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Item 4, filed by Councilor Jourdain, that the city council explore with the mayor a residential development plan for city-owned vacant parcels as homes built then sold. City funds coupled with any available grant funding will be used to seed funding, with proceeds of the sales used to build more homes. The long-term play for the city is the generation of all the property tax revenue from these home sales, then the new availability of great new housing, the reduction in city-owned buildable lots, and the growth of population. Councilor Jourdain.
Thank you. I wanted to just introduce the concept, and then if there's a convenient time for the mayor to come in before the committee, I think I'd like to talk to him. I can also talk to him also offline, but basically to get a sense of the concept is we have certain vacant lots in the city, and what I'd like to see happen to these is to have residential development to occur on these lots. And I don't think we necessarily have to always wait for either some state or federal program to come through in order to fund these. What I think we should seriously consider, and I know, unfortunately, he had a short, brief term as our mayor, but Terry Murphy and I had an extensive opportunity to discuss this particular issue, and I wanted to give a little more teeth to it. And that is basically that the concept is, if we were to take stabilization funds or some other pot of money that we would have, say to the tune of $1.2 million, and say we took and built 4 $300,000 homes, okay, on these particular lots, we would then sell those homes, and we would use the proceeds of those homes to then build the next set of houses. And then we would sell those to build the next set of houses, and we would keep going. Now, mind you, if we don't get a full return, now, as its fortunes have it, housing market is up, and therefore you might be able to hopefully recoup most, if not all, of your cost to do it because of the accelerating home prices, and these would be market rate cost homes. And so what I would like to have the city consider is this introduction of using some seed funds that would pay to develop homes on all these different, or many of the different lots that we have available. So the city's skin in the game would certainly be to introduce the seed money and to basically be giving these parcels as part of the home sale process. But the ultimate return to the city for this program is the, permanent ongoing property tax revenue, new homes and development, and you're increasing our population here in the city, which is something that we need collectively to be very concerned about. I'm very concerned in Hampden County. I think we went down the most. I think we went down like 7% the last census, and we need to be very careful with our population. So this is essentially the concept. I wanted to introduce it to the committee to have a conversation and to see if there's an appetite to do something like this. Terry kind of wanted to do something also with it, but it just wasn't meant to be in his whatever number of months he ultimately was. I think it was about 7 or 8 months as mayor. So this is the concept that I wanted to introduce to the D&GR committee, and to have the mayor come in and kind of put some, start with the skeleton and begin to kind of build some teeth around this. And start to chip away at it. So if that's something that you think might be something that makes sense, I think we could really have put something special together here.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Jourdain. I think it's a really exciting idea. I've actually had also similar but different conversations about why the city, doesn't flip its own properties.
Right.
When we have, and I hadn't really thought about the vacant lots, but, I've had conversations with people, along the similar lines of if we have an abandoned building or a recently neglected building that we could fix up and resell, I wonder if there's an appetite for that or why we don't do that. Why are we choosing to sit on these properties as they deteriorate, lose value?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure there's reasons why sometimes we can't just go in and take something over, but there are definitely properties the city owns that it probably could have did something with to, flip it and make money for the city, get the property on the tax rolls, get more housing. So I think it's a really great idea and worth conversation. So I would be more than happy to table this for another conversation here.
Just a question.
Oh, sure, of course.
I too think it's a good idea, and maybe what we should do, like Councilor Jourdain said, have the mayor come in, but we might want to wait until we have free cash certified.
Okay.
Because then he may be able to figure out a different kind of budget than if we said, can you do it now? And then we have, I think, One Holyoke Development still does this type of thing, building homes. Do they still? I know that Dick Corshane, when he was alive, that's what he did, but I wasn't sure if One Holyoke did it. But I think if we wait until free cash is certified, the mayor may have a better outlook on how to do this. Just a thought.
Right, but one of the concepts is, you're right, that could definitely be one of the pots that we could look into. I'm really not wanting to rely on the housing authority, let it do its thing. And One Holyoke is doing its thing and they get these different resources. But what I'm suggesting is, we have $18 million in stabilization and no one's had a bigger kung fu grip on holding that together than myself, and keeping that there for the rainy day. Having said that, it is there for strategic investments as well. And what I was considering is for us to have a strategic investment maybe from stabilization of, just start with like 4 $300,000 homes, and then we get the proceeds from those back, and then we just kind of keep chipping away at this. And we're probably going to lose something in terms of admin along the way, but I maintain that you'll ultimately get, between the property tax revenue and the other added benefits of increasing the values of everybody who's in these neighborhoods around them, it would have but yeah, free cash is one thing. The thing though, I think we'd have to be realistic though, is I think you're gonna find out that the free cash, every penny of it will be needed to just the operating budget. I think that's what you're gonna come to see, because we've already know that we don't have the ARPA money to balance the budget, and we used $3.2 million last year to balance that. So we're going to be in a pickle on the operating budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm loving everything I hear so far. The thing I would suggest too is we've got to come up with a way of accelerating the process of making these properties available to private developers. It's just too long of a drawn-out process before they become available. And see what we can do, really just accelerating that process and getting them out there to private investors to do this kind of work. We might find if we were, quicker to do that, we'd have more people stepping forward. We wouldn't even have to step in. The city as itself as a developer, that there would be plenty of people out there in the private sector ready to do that if we could make them available quicker.
Good idea.
All very good ideas. I would like to just add that if the values increase, taxes go up. So, as property values increase, we're all paying a little more to be here, but there is something to be said about getting things on the tax rolls and making our neighborhoods more livable and more populated. So
Yes.
Definitely worth all the conversations. I agree.
Thank you for taking it up, and
Absolutely. Would you be interested in putting it on the April 22nd agenda?
Yeah, sure.
Or is that too soon? You want to?
No, April 22nd.
So we'll table it if you want to. I'll
Hopefully
entertain the motion
I can have
to
some more
table that.
conversations with the mayor and all
Okay.
that. Yep, thank you.
Motion to table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So motion to table item 4 to April 22nd, and hopes that some conversations happen and we can get the mayor in for a deeper conversation. All right. I'm going to take a quick break for like 2 minutes, and then we can have these guys in and do item 5.
Okay.
I have to go to the bathroom. We finished the meeting. Just kidding, Libby. Just kidding. Come on in. We're just taking a quick break.
It wasn't anything you said. Hello, how are you, everybody? Good, how are you? Good, good. Thank you for your donation. Oh, you're very welcome, very welcome. Hi, Mary. You seem like you had a couple busy days there with your weddings, and, was it weddings or?
I Book of Mormon.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So my kids live in Boston.
Oh, okay. Visit all the time, yeah. Okay. Okay.
So let me make sure.
Hi. Let's see, I'm trying to think what, Jeffrey had showed me. What were you in for? Oh. March 4th, I believe, March 1st. I just went through it, but you're not on it? Oh, okay. The next time, if you're on it, you can go first. How's that, okay? You heard him. You heard me, okay? At first, I was like, I don't think you're on. So the next time, definitely.
Yes. Thanks. Are we ready?
Ready?
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion. Take up item 5.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 5, filed by Councilor Sullivan, that the DPW director and board members be invited to Development and Government Relations to update the council on the status of operations, projects, and initiatives. Thanks for coming in. Hi.
Thank you, councilors. I think you got the 2 slides that we provided for you guys.
Yep, we have some slides. Councilor Sullivan, did you want to start since this is your order?
Yeah, just real briefly, the reason I filed this is a lot of people look at the DPW as just potholes and trash pickup. And we've got a lot going on in the city right now. A lot of it modern day issues centered around climate change. We've got a huge issue coming up with our long-term sewer contract. We have some tremendous opportunities to use some of these challenges right now to benefit the city for generations going forward. Nothing short of turning the city into an eco-factory. And we also have some issues long neglected. It's time to change how we look at DPW. I saw a truck today, and going a little off topic, it's a 2008 with the wheel wells rotted out and all the idiot lights on, warning about the tires and everything else. And we've got people driving around trying to maintain the city and still being criticized for not being able to do their jobs. Having said all that, it is a tremendous time for transformation in the city, and I'd like to hear, and we have some new employees doing tremendous things with grants that we never had before, and I thought it was a good time to get the DPW in here and update the rest of the council and the public as to what's going on.
Thank you, Councilor, and I really do appreciate the invite. I'm very
your
proud of.
microphone on?
Yes, my microphone's on. Maybe I'm talking a little too low. I'm very happy that you invited me to talk with with the board. So I'll let you know some of the things that are going on. Obviously, as you said, that DPW is more than just pothole repair, garbage pickup, recycling pickup, snow plowing. As you see it in the slide, we have our administration, our highway department, which does a lot more things than just pothole repair. They do a lot of the areas on the sides of the roads, cutting back brush and things like that. We do solid waste and recycling. As you know, we had hired a new recycling coordinator back in September, and he's doing a fantastic job. He's going around educating people, tagging recyclables that are mixed with garbage, and trying to educate people about recycling. We have the forestry department that takes care of our trees, which is of one person right now, but what we have right now is that today we extended an offer to 2 qualified candidates for tree climber. So we're finally going to get that bucket truck that we paid for 3 years ago out on the road. And I know that was a big thing when I first started here, from certain counselors at the time. So hopefully they'll accept the offer, and then we'll be starting to see a crew hopefully by mid-spring, going around. Two. So, and they come with a lot of experience, as they've worked in the private sector for Asplund or Bartlett, tree companies, so they know what they're doing. Budgetarily, DPW is fully staffed, minus the city engineer and the senior engineer. We're still having a difficult time finding candidates for those 2 positions, or qualified candidates for those 2 positions, because of the salary range. We are working with the city solicitor's office and with the union to negotiate a higher salary for that range. So we're not attracting the candidates that we would like. And basically, for the city engineer, we've kind of found one candidate, but the problem is the salary range. But other than him, we haven't gotten anything, and we've posted it on the city website, Indeed, American Public Works Association website, and we haven't had any hits. We are still not at fiscal year 2023 status as far as what our DPW workforce should be. We're down right now 6 drivers in highways and bridges, because that was taken out of the budget for fiscal year 2024. And this causes a problem for DPW, because when the drivers from trash and recycling call out sick, or they take their vacation, we have to borrow from the highway department to fill, to do that work, because trash has to be picked up. So right now in the highway department, we only have 6 drivers and 2 loader operators. But like I said, if something comes up, they move over to the recycling division and refuse division, and they go work for them. So during the summertime, I could only have maybe a crew of 3 to do line painting, pothole repairs, cutting back the brush, things like that. So we're talking about equipment also. As you know, equipment, and as you stated, 2008, that was one of the newer ones, because we're looking to replace the next budget cycle for capital equipment 2 garbage trucks that are over 20 years old. And, we're just using duct tape and, straws to keep it running. So at least for capital equipment, what I'm looking for in the next budget cycle is 2 garbage trucks, 2 large snow plow trucks, 2 smaller snow plow trucks, 3 pickup trucks, 2 lawnmowers, a chipper, and a stump grinder. The chipper might be like 40 years old, so it's way past its life cycle. And the other big thing we're looking to do is the new recycling totes. To get funding for new recycling totes to distribute to the public. And vehicle equipment maintenance, we also do parks, sewers, and properties and buildings. So you guys got a feel for it because most counselors know what we do, but I don't think the public knows. We did a similar presentation back in December to the Holyoke Taxpayers Association, and they were kind of surprised of all the stuff that we do. So as far as operations goes, and then as far as the sewer enterprise and the sewer management, I'll hand it over to Mary.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Carl. Just a second.
Sure.
Just because I know, because it's St. Patty's season,
Yes.
and there's going to be all these beautiful shamrocks all over
They'll
the
be
city.
painted. We're looking for weather.
Yeah.
Weather.
So after that happens, all of us, I'm sure, I know I get calls after this happens, asking about how we could possibly find time to paint all these shamrocks, but we don't have time to paint all the crosswalks and any line painting that needs to be done. So I'm just putting that out there because those are constituent calls immediately when they start seeing the shamrocks go out. They wonder why their crosswalks aren't painted. So,
Like I said, one is a matter of funding. Okay, we did a lot of crosswalks over the summertime last year. So it's a matter of funding, and two is also a matter of manpower. We know, we plan for St. Patrick's Day months in advance.
Right.
So, and it doesn't take a lot of time to do the shamrocks because we have the stencil, but to get a crew to do the crosswalks, it takes a lot more time because you have to worry about the traffic control, you have to worry about, more than just painting the shamrocks.
thank you. I just think that's important for people to hear because I definitely get calls immediately afterwards. And so it's nice to be able to say, hey, it's a little more complicated to do more work. So thank you.
So,
Sorry. Go ahead.
So before we move on, I just want to get this out there. We mentioned the trouble in finding a city engineer with the salary that we propose. How does that stack up to our neighboring cities, what we offer compared to the competition?
I'd have to check that more carefully, but I'm pretty sure that we're not at our highest rate is probably their lowest rate.
I've actually done,
You have?
not a formal one, but looked around and yes, we are definitely not competing against the Northamptons we lost one to Northampton, and it's not just Holyoke, it's the industry as a whole. So engineers are in demand now, both on the public sector and the private sector side. So in order to capture that engineer that's going to hit the ground running, we don't have anybody here to train them because there's no engineering staff to train them. We're going to have to make that salary competitive.
And we're also competing with Mass DOT because we lost our senior engineer to Mass DOT.
Yep. So what I'm getting at is the DPW budget has been insufficient over the years to attract or maintain qualified people.
Correct.
And the same goes for our drivers.
Correct.
We're at the lowest end of the pay scale, and the minute somebody gets some experience, they're moving on to a better paying job in another municipality or in private industry.
And they either go to the water department too.
yeah.
We lose our people to the water department.
That's always been that way.
Yeah.
Always been that way.
And the issue also is DPW budget has also been insufficiently funded as far as their operating costs, not as for personal services, but also for operating costs. We don't have enough money in the budget for, pothole repair. We don't have enough money in the budget for line painting or crosswalk painting, signs, and things like that.
Yep, and that's what I'm trying to get through to the rest of the counselors that are listening and the public that's at home. When you file an order, when you have a complaint, and you file an order and it's sent to the city engineer, it's going nowhere because we have no city engineer right now. So file all the orders you want, file all the complaints you want until we get competitive and offer competitive salaries to our employees. that's what's going to happen. That's my editorial.
Thank you, Councilor Solomon. I'm
Just,
sorry.
unless somebody else has a question?
No.
No, I just, first of all, thank you all for coming down here and sitting around and listening to us all this time, and I really appreciate it. And I think most of you know my heart is with the DPW. My dad worked there he retired from there, so I'm kind of, loving the DPW, always have. One question I did have with the recycling bins, the trash bins, trash bins. I know that there was a list to get smaller ones. Is that going anywhere? Is that?
Yes, we've been handing them out.
Okay.
If there's a resident that hasn't gotten them, okay, just email me your request.
Okay.
That way we have it formally, and Rico, he's our recycling coordinator, will deliver it to your door.
Thank you. Only
and
because
swap it out.
Today I have one bag in there, and it's a little bag, and I'd rather see somebody with a family take it, So I'll email you, Carl.
Okay.
That'd be great. I get on that list, you'll get on my list.
Okay.
First one on Finance Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mary?
Okay, well, thank you. And so I want to introduce the rest of the Board of Public Works to you. We have Commissioner Libby Hernandez, and we have Commissioner Joe Keatner. And just to introduce both the council and the public to how in the last 2 years we've changed our approach to the Board of Public Works and the role that the Board of Public Works takes. We're lining it up closer, if not exactly with what the ordinance say the authority of the Board of Public Works is. And when you talk to the four of us here, I'm the senior person. I've been here all of 2 years as a member of the Board of Public Works. Libby came after me, Joe came after me, and Carl's 1 year and 2 months now, right? Or 1 month. So we've done a lot. We've done a lot in looking at where DPW needs to go, where DPW should be going. And in doing that, one of the handouts you have is a professional profile on all four of us.
That was great.
Just
That's
so that,
really great.
we all bring a unique set of experiences and expertise to our responsibilities here. And so when we all became a board together, we decided that we'd adopt a process that it's a liaison type process where depending on our unique expertise, each one of us would kind of represent the board when questions would come up. Let's say in Joe's case, permitting. Joe's got an extensive background in the permitting world. Libby's got a super talent and expertise when it comes to constituent services. And I've been a municipal liaison in the public works field for the last 25 years. That being said, we don't operate independent of the board. We're a board. As individuals, we have no authority. So our board meetings can be 2.5 to 3 hours long because we're updating each other on what in our unique conversations and outreach that we've done, where the other board members get to know that. And if each one of us has an initiative we want to pursue, it doesn't happen unless the board agrees. So there's nobody running independent. The independent person is the DPW director. The DPW director runs the DPW. We do not. He does. We're there to provide support, and we're there to provide some policy, and we're there to, and I tell him, and we all tell him to take the political hits.
He does.
He's been doing a great job. He missed a couple of things to talk about, workforce development.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, could you bring that up, and then we'll go back to our projects?
We do have some money that in our budget, I think for the first time in a long time. It was about $5,000, but I'll be asking for more on that. Is for training. One of the things that we did as soon as I got the money, I think it was four of us. Four of us went to snow and ice operations for supervisors, and it was in Chicopee, and the instructor was so excited to see Holyoke. This is in the 12 years that he's been doing the course, he's never seen Holyoke show up. So we're trying to invest more into our workforce because we feel that, okay, maybe our salaries are a little you know, a lot under, but people stick around for the training opportunities, and especially the supervisors, and they really do appreciate that. And that changes the atmosphere too down there, that they're seeing that the city is willing to invest in their training and their professional growth.
Okay. So, we have several big projects that are currently coming out of the Board of Public Works and DPW. So they're highlighted on that handout that you have. We all just came through a long process of discussing the sewer rate. We're 18 years into the long-term service agreement contract, and that sewer, the individual sewer rate was intended, I'm assuming back when, by former counselors to support the enterprise fund and the cost associated with the private contractor. However, there had been no financial analysis of what that made up. You didn't know what you were paying for. I mean, contractually, you knew you had this bill due, but what was the breakdown? And that isn't the fault of the contractor, that's the fault of the city as well. We never, and I'll be honest, we never monitored that project. Once that project was awarded back in 2005, it started with Aquarian. It was never intended to be, that's your job as city, we're going away. We have a responsibility to manage that contract with our contractor in order to best serve the users and the residents. So we just kicked off in January a comprehensive financial analysis. It'll serve two purposes. For the next sewer rate discussion, the city will have a better understanding of what that $7.3 million is paying for. As noted, street sweeping, catch basin maintenance and repair, the maintenance of the flood control systems are all coming out of the service agreement. That there's no issue with that. That was perfectly appropriate to do that, but is it appropriate, and this is a conversation the council will have to charge just the ratepayers for those services when those are city-wide benefits? So that's underway right now, and it's also going to give us a better understanding of what the actual cost of the operations and maintenance of our wastewater operation are, in anticipation of we're coming to the end of that 20-year contract and what path we go on next. We're also in the process of developing an integrated management plan. Carl and DPW are trying to establish both a short-term and a long-term capital improvements program, but how do you do that if you don't know the condition of your assets? And that had never been done before. Our capital plan, and it was acknowledged, had been responding to breaks. We get to fix a pipe, that's your capital work for the year, and that's not how it's supposed to work. I mean, responding to breaks costs a lot more, puts public health and puts safety at risk. So through the integrated management plan, we're looking at the condition of our infrastructure, our wastewater, stormwater collection systems, where we have an opportunity to install some green infrastructure. The solution isn't always more pipe. In fact, if you can take advantage of nature-based solutions, that can cost less and be more effective. And along that, Carl's been leading a project team with respect to the TVing of our system. And that's contributing as well to known problems in our pipes. And can you explain the most recent one? Because I think this is really cool. This is what happens when you start looking at what's going on. You get an opportunity to get ahead of something.
Yeah, so some of the stuff that we found is, and this was funded through ARPA money. Chris Baker started this, so I can't take the credit for it. Chris Baker started this. But what we found out through TVing the downtown area here on High Street and side streets, that our pipes are in bad shape. So it was a project of TVing and then lining the sewer lines, where you just put a camera in and you go, inspect the lines to see what the conditions is, and then depending on the condition, you could slip line and put a liner in the pipe. but and that was the main source of the project. But what we're finding is that our infrastructure is so bad that we have to do more spot repairs than doing the slip lining project. So, for example, one of the projects that we had to do that is with the YMCA. There's a line in the alley, and it was potential for collapsing. So we had to spend $50,000, which we had put finally this year into the budget for emergency repairs, and we used that money to fix that so that they could go back in and line the sewer line.
So, if I can.
Sure.
And this is, you have to bear with me, Mary's used to it too, but I'll tend to interrupt a little
That's
bit.
okay.
That's great.
Just to, before we get too far away from any subject.
Yeah.
Number one, on this one, you mentioned Chris Baker found this problem. Who is Chris Baker for
Yes,
the
of
public
course.
and my fellow counselors?
I know, yeah.
But a lot of people don't know
Yeah.
who Chris Baker was.
On that topic also, and I failed to mention this, and you said that council orders get, but don't forget, city engineer department also supports a lot of the other departments. The planning department, we do a lot of work for them.
And the person that found this was the
Former city.
city engineer,
Yeah.
which we don't have now.
Right.
So if there's any other problems similar to this, we're not finding them.
Right.
All right? And to what Mary previously talked about, this 20-year contract, 20 years, that's a nice number. That number is, dollar-wise, going to fall somewhere on the low end, maybe somewhere between $160 million and $200 million. These are the things that are in front of the city right now. So it's a lot more than just a 20-year contract.
Right, and that's
Okay.
the fourth bulleted item here.
All right. So,
Yeah, no,
but
this is great.
continuing, I may make my editorial comments from here to there
Councilor Sullivan.
just so that I can keep everybody tuned into why we're doing this.
You're more than welcome to do
All right.
that.
Thank you.
And to segue off of what you just said about, the former city engineer, he started this project initiative, and this comprehensive integrated management plan was also started when we had an engineering staff. So that's been slowed down quite a bit because we don't have a program manager that's on staff with the city to help move it along. So, we step up, I step up, and we fill in those blanks as best we can, but, without full-time staff, the schedule for the integrated management plan has fallen behind. But we'll catch up. It's a cool project, and in all honesty, these are the kinds of projects that will attract engineering candidates to the city because these are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities for them to add to their resume. We just need to get the salary up. So the other project in front of us, and actually that was our day, almost all day today, was we just got issued our final Nippity's wastewater discharge permit. So that's what EPA tells us what we can and can't do with the wastewater treatment plant. We're actually appealing the final permit. It has some rather egregious requirements in it. We filed an initial appeal. They didn't respond as we had hoped to that initial appeal, but there's some potentially expensive costs associated in this permit, so we're taking it legally one step further and appealing these onerous conditions that actually would impact, they're bringing into it climate change and flooding and resiliency specific to the wastewater treatment plant, which is a bridge too far. And it's one of the first permits from EPA to have this in it, so we're actually becoming a test case.
Oh, great.
So, but we
have support from other entities outside
Right.
of Holyoke.
Correct. The National Association of Clean Water Professionals, NACRA is what it's called. They're filing on our behalf, and MWRA, Boston Water and Sewer. Again, these are the bottom line is these are requirements in the permit that tend to go beyond within this Region 1 permitting authority what they believe their authority is. So we'll keep the board updated on that. And then, Counselor Sullivan's brought up, the long-term service agreement. Counselor Sullivan's been a great volunteer on this ad hoc group of folks we've put together to begin, or we've begun. It's been a year of doing this, looking at what are the city's alternatives for the next long-term service agreement. A wastewater treatment plant is no longer just a wastewater treatment plant. It's an opportunity for economic development. It's an opportunity to generate green power. It's an opportunity to generate a product through its sludge. We've hit the road. We visited the Deer Island plant that's operated by MWRA. I heard on one of the previous presentations here the use of Holyoke media and videos. We've put together a video that has members of the ad hoc group talking about what Holyoke's vision is. That's been shared on LinkedIn, and we've had outreach from international consulting firms that have reached out to us and want to talk to us. Great. So we have in front of us an opportunity for, and we're not shy in saying this, for Holyoke to be that model, that showcase for what we can do at our wastewater treatment plant. So those discussions are rapidly moving forward. There's decisions over the next 18 months that will be made, both for the short term and the long term, but it is quite exciting. So that's the update for some of the major projects. But I'll on behalf of the board, I want to say that we appreciate Councilor Sullivan giving us this opportunity to talk about what DPW does, because we do a lot. And if Commissioner Hernandez or Commissioner Keatner want to add to this.
I just want to say we need a city engineer.
Yes.
Please help us.
Yes.
Thank you all for that. I just had a clarification question, because I've been hearing a lot about all of this over the last year, and I sometimes mix these things up a little. Can we get would you mind telling us just again, what, because it seems like we need all these things as far as the integrated management plan and the long-term service agreement. They seem to work together, but can you differentiate a little bit, or can you give us a layman's terms of what they are and the importance of them? Because I don't think it doesn't always really make sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
For those of us that have been in the business this long, just assume.
Right.
So the integrated management plan is, we're working with a consultant who is looking at all of the technical components of our wastewater and stormwater and flood control systems infrastructure. What has needs because of condition, what has needs because with climate change in particular, do those culverts and pipes, are they still able to manage those flows now from those more extreme weather events? What needs to be fixed? And one of the reasons you want an integrated management plan is, like Carl said, we need to know where to target our money. We need to know what needs to be fixed first. And the reason you want to fix things is because industry, residents, they depend on infrastructure working. One of the cool things about public works, and it's also a negative, is you don't know it exists until something goes wrong. So we want you to forget about us in that sense. We want to identify those problems in our system so that they can be fixed. We want industries to say, we want to come to Holyoke because we know that their wastewater collection system, those operations down in the old industrial section, our old mills, the infrastructure that supports them isn't going to collapse on us and interrupt our business operations. Residents don't want to be living in an area where with sanitary sewer overflows, sewer breaks, you've got sewer leaking onto the streets. So this integrated management plan is going to give us that knowledge, and it's also going to ask, one of the things that's been held up because we don't have an engineer to help coordinate this, is it includes a lot of public outreach. And not only are we collecting the technical data about what the system looks like, but we want the public to tell us, what do you see in your neighborhood? Or when you're working in Holyoke, do you see flooding that we don't know about? Is your basement flooding that didn't flood before? Are there things happening that we need to know about that goes back to how do we address it through infrastructure improvements? So, and that will give DPW and Carl the opportunity to help look at, so this pipe will say on High Street, you know, it needs to be changed. It needs to be changed today because it's High Street, but there's a pipe that might be a little bit worse, but it's out on some street that only has 2 people living on it. That'll be a lower priority. It gives our new grant writer the opportunity, now that there's a list of projects that have been identified as having needs and there's costs associated with replacing them, we can go after grants. You need to know what you need the grant for to go after it. So, you know, it gives us that list of projects.
I think that's an important detail too. I don't think people realize that grant money is not just a big pile that we can use for anything. Most grants are very specific for
Correct.
a specific project.
And back to, we don't have an engineer. We got the grant writer and the, you know, it's hard to quantify what you didn't get, but the absence of this knowledge, the absence of a person being able to pursue this, I have no doubt saying that over the years we've lost millions of dollars in grant opportunities because we didn't know what to pursue. We waited for the break. A break costs us twice as much as going in to repair it, and you can't ask for grants for a break.
Right.
So, you know, but it takes an investment. You know, council and the public need to know that this is an investment. It's easy enough to say, well, we wait around for, well, we had to do it. Instead, we're getting in front of it now. We do have to do this, but yes, you're not seeing, you know, the sewer bubbling out on the streets, but you don't want to see that. We're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. And now with the long-term service agreement, that's separate from this. This is the operations at the wastewater treatment plant. This is where, back in 2005, the city contracted out the operations at the plant to a private contractor. They provide the staffing. Within the contract that was negotiated in 2005, they do maintenance to a certain degree. They repair to a certain dollar figure. What you see when we have those shortfalls is where our breaks exceeded that dollar figure. And back then, council added to the wastewater treatment plant operations, your stormwater management is including street sweeping, culverts, and the flood control systems. So what we're looking at now moving forward is, what does that next contract look like? There could be capital improvements associated with anaerobic digesters, because we're looking at the flows that go into a plant are actually a source of energy that can generate green power. It's a fuel. So we're trying to find funding now through grants in order to do feasibility and facility planning at the site to see what can we actually make happen that generates money back to the city, keeps our rates low, contributes to climate resiliency, contributes to greenhouse gas emissions reductions, and again, makes our plant efficient and does what it's supposed to do for clean water.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions?
All compliments on everything you're doing, you know.
Yeah.
And if I knew a city engineer, I'd have one, but I don't know one. So, but thank you very much. I know that you're all working hard and married to them. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Councilor Sobel?
Yeah, just in closing, unless you have something else to add to it, we're good. For any of the public that's still out there, and I'm hoping we get this through to the rest of the full council and start getting this out to the public. We've got we're being attacked from two sides. We're being attacked by climate change, and we're being attacked, right, by state and federal regulation, right, in a manner that wasn't there 20 years ago, all right? And this attack between climate change and state and federal regulations is all coming down on an antiquated, old, aging industrial system, that is in need of much more rapid modernization. This is the challenge we're facing right now. And the really cool thing, the exciting thing for me, which I've seen out of it, and now I think we've got a team and we're heading in the right direction, is the modernization of this system and in answering these challenges that we've got now are the catalyst, the opportunity, all right, to reinvent Holyoke. All right, and it's hard for people, I think, to get their heads around that the DPW can be a leading economic driver for bringing new business and green energy and making, which I'm going to keep dwelling on for the next 2 years at least anyways, is make us into an eco-factory, and this is what's going to attract more businesses similar to this new one we see coming, Sublime, and other industries that are out there that want to capitalize on our green footprint. So I want to thank you all for being here tonight, and I hope this gets out to the public.
Thank you, Councilor Sullivan. Thank you, commissioners. Carl, we really appreciate you and
We
your
always save
time.
the best to last, right?
Absolutely. So thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Thanks, y'all. All right.
Motion
So,
that the order's been complied with?
second? Anybody?
Second.
All in favor?
All right,
All right. And
motion to adjourn?
Second.
all in favor? Good night. Thanks, everyone.